You know how there's something about you that you feel like you need to hide because it's very different from the rest of the people around you? What if that thing is the thing that is actually going to make you the most successful? That's the thing that you actually need to lean into in order to get to where you're trying to get to or be who you're trying to be. Well, Belle da Costa Greene did just that in the book, The Personal Librarian. So, for the majority of her life, she hid the fact that she was a black woman. She spent her adult life passing as a white woman so that she could have the privileges and the access that came with that, and so she could support her family. But what she couldn't hide was the fact that she was a woman. So, when her mother was very cautious about concealing her identity and making sure she did everything perfectly and that she stayed on the straight and narrow so that she wouldn't be exposed. If she was exposed, then her whole family was exposed. But Belle realized that she couldn't hide herself. She couldn't hide the fact that she was a woman. So she needed to flaunt that, in fact, and then pair that with her intelligence. And she says that. She finally explains it to her mom in one of the chapters. She says, "Mama, I will never blend in with my peers. Those men will always perceive me as different, as an outsider, because I am a woman or..." I trail off, and then I take a deep breath before I continue. "I've come to believe that the best path to success is by embracing my gender, Mama, flaunting it even." Those words make Mama flinch. Rather than trying to hide, then once I have their focus, I demonstrate my skills and knowledge. Mama's expression grows alarmed. "Should you really draw so much attention to yourself, Belle? It's not as if I can hide the fact that I'm a woman by wearing dowdy dresses. But if you invite their stares, what else might they scrutinize?" And they go on with that. But Belle decided that since I cannot hide this thing, why don't I use it to my advantage? So the first thing that she did is she used visibility as her strategy. So once she progressed from just collecting books and manuscripts and art for Mr. Morgan, she moved into entertaining and going out to into high society and learning who these dealers are and getting ingrained with this whole world and traveling on his behalf and going to auctions on his behalf, when typically in that time women didn't go, only men went. So she was kind of going into a mess of vipers because she was the only woman there. And I know today a lot of us feel the same way. A lot of us are still the only. So she was the only woman in a sea of men. She definitely was the only black woman in that position, even though she was pretending to be white. And that happens now all the time. I went to logistics, and logistics is a very kind of white male dominated industry. There were times where I was in project meetings where I was the only woman and the only black person and only person of color. So it would be me and 20 white men in these rooms holding these meetings. So you do have to figure out what it is about yourself that you're going to lean into, because you can't change the fact that you're a woman. If you have darker skin, you can't change the fact that you're black. So you have to get comfortable sitting in your difference. So Belle did that. She got comfortable sitting in the fact that she was a woman by flaunting, by learning to flirt, by learning to be a little bit coquettish. She got really, really nice gowns so that when she walked into a room, people knew that she was there. And she used that to attract their attention. But then she paired that with the fact that she knew her stuff. So she was incredibly intelligent. She was well studied. She knew multiple languages. She could speak about a number of different things in that arena. So she knew that once she got their attention, she had the advantage and she was prepared for it. The second thing is she used the element of surprise as her power. She used language. She was very witty, and she learned that she had to be witty. Otherwise, she would be like eaten alive, so to speak. So there was one scene where Mr. Morgan's daughter, Anne, was challenging her identity. So Anne never really liked Belle, and she tried to kind of catch her out multiple times throughout the book. But Anne had her own secrets, which I will not reveal. Belle learned to kind of move around society. And as a woman, you get to hear certain things and you can move in different places. And sometimes you can be invisible. And when you come across as invisible, that's also an advantage, because then you can hear and you can see and you can listen and use what you learn to your advantage. So she had learned some things about Anne, which she kind of kept in her back pocket. So I'm going to read one scene of an exchange between Anne and Belle. "Are you sure you have no Cuban heritage?" she says, openly doubting my words. "I've heard so many rumors." I cut her off with a wave of my hand and more laughter, because I'm unsure how far she will go. Nor am I certain how Russell will withstand the ongoing inquiry. "Don't believe everything you hear, Miss DeWolf. It can be challenging, Miss Greene, when the rumors are so persistent," she holds firm. "Well, I am certain you, of all people, understand how stubborn rumors can be, how hard to shake. I find that can be particularly true with rumors about strong women, such as ourselves. But don't you think we owe it to other women to push aside slander and gossip about one of our own?" I do not expect an answer, but I do anticipate a reaction. I certainly ignore the chatter I hear about you and Miss Marbury. From the frozen expression on Elsie's face, I've achieved my goal. By appealing to her stated commitment to women's interests while subtly hinting at the whispers about her own life, I have boxed her in. How can she persist in her persecution of me at the same time she publicly espouses support for women, especially given that she now knows I'm aware that she has secrets of her own? So anyway, so she was quick with the comebacks, and it wasn't just in these situations with other women. It was in situations where she was dismissed because some of the male dealers, that the art dealers and the book dealers that she was dealing with, that she was dealing with, tried to dismiss her, as unintelligent or as a woman. So here's another example of that. He smiles, nods, and once again glances at his group of friends. "Sounds like a big job for a little lady." I sigh and lower my eyes. "Yes, it's an awfully big job, and being a woman, I know that I must do my job twice as well as any man to be thought half as good." I glance up with a broad smile and add, "Lucky for me, that won't be too difficult." I laugh, then slip my vivid red scarf from around my neck and let it trail behind me sinuously as I turn away. "Have a good day, gentlemen." A ripple passes through the men, indiscernible and inaudible, but undeniable. Over my shoulder, I hear a bevy of farewells and "Nice to meet you, Miss Greens," but their voices are soon drowned out by the sound of a gong, and I am already on to my next task of choosing that all-important auction seat. I've read Mr. Morgan's volumes on the auction rules and probed my colleagues about their practices. Auction goers have clear preferences. Some seek out seats in the front row to be seen. Or in the rear so their bids can only be seen by the auctioneer. Those more interested in displaying their finances and their power choose the center. I know precisely where to be. So she knows that she's going to get a lot of attention because she's a woman. So she dresses the part. She also knows that she has to be able to stand up and perform in the moment. So she's ready. She's always got like a quip on her tongue. She knows her stuff. She researches what Mr. Morgan wants. She's well aware of his needs. She also studies the competition. So she knows who's going to be there. She knows what they're going to bid on. She knows what the expectations are. So she is well studied. So she uses that to her advantage. She uses that being well studied as a way to surprise the people that she's dealing with and to regain her own power. She doesn't downplay her intellect to make other people comfortable. She kind of will be a little bit flirtatious and she will appear to acquiesce in the very beginning, but then she's gonna get you with that silver tongue after. The next thing is that boldness creates authority. So there was a major win. There was a series of books by somebody named Caxton that she wanted to win. And she knew that there were going to be some high bidders on it. She knew that it was going to be really, really intense competition. She had gone overseas to go and get it, but she wanted to make sure that she was successful. She really wanted to impress Mr. Morgan. He let her go overseas and she wanted to come back victorious. So she devised a plan. The plan was to not bid during the auction, but to try to purchase them before the auction even began so that they wouldn't even go up for bid. So she used that element of surprise and that prowess to win. They finally took her up on it. Okay, so in this, when she's preparing to negotiate for the Caxtons, she says, but I don't tell her about my unorthodox plan to bring the Caxton trophies home to New York City, a scheme that requires I woo the wealthy Lord Amherst with a compelling proposition. It is a daring scheme that would trouble my rule-abiding mother, but in order to continue to build back my worth to Mr. Morgan, I must take risks I wouldn't have chanced before. So she knows that she needs to be bold. So she makes her offer to him, and his response is, and this is what happens. He pauses, speechless. Suddenly, he reaches across the table for the piece of paper I offered him and stands. I'll telegraph you my decision here at the hotel. So fast forward, I've already told you that she wins, and the response when she got home, this is what Mr. Morgan said. Well, this certainly explains the glowing letters I received from the dealers as you sailed home. I froze. Was he being facetious? They weren't angry? To the contrary, they would have liked the Caxtons, of course, but they respect your prowess. How did Fitz put it? He pauses. Ah, yes. He said that I finally have a worthy representative who shares my skill in the art of negotiation, one that taught the old British dogs some new tricks. Belle was able to take that boldness that she had and create authority. She was able to stand out as a force to be reckoned with, as a worthy opponent, as somebody who needs to be on all the lists of social events, and who dealers wanted to come because they know that she was going to. Because they know that she's got Mr. Morgan's coins, so she's got money to spend. Across these three strategies that Belle used, using her visibility as a strategy, she didn't shrink to fit in. Today, oftentimes, women, sometimes still shrink. We still try to make ourselves small and not, seen, try not to trouble the waters, try to be extra nice, try to make sure that we look the part in order to fit in. And more, I see women's networking groups and meetings and keynote speeches about not asking for permission, asking for forgiveness. Come in, stand up, take your advantage, and do whatever it is you need to do, and ask for forgiveness, not permission. Because when you ask for permission, oftentimes you're denied. And what men do is, and speaking in generalities, but generally men will just go in there and they'll do what they want to do and worry about it later. And there are ways that we can use take that same energy and use it to our advantage. So for Belle, one of the things was she's a woman, she can't hide that, so she's going to be the best looking woman that she can be, and use that the kind of coy womanness to her advantage to draw people in, and then surprise them with her quick-wittedness once she gets them in. The next thing she used was surprise the element of surprise as a power move. She was constantly underestimated because she was a woman, because her racial ethnicity was a little bit suspicious, because she didn't come from, she wasn't born into money. She wasn't born with a silver spoon, so she wasn't born into the high society. So that all put her in the category of being underestimated. So she used that element of surprise to her advantage. So when people tried to dismiss her as being a woman, or people tried to dismiss her as not really knowing what she was talking about, she used all of that studying, all of the language understanding that she had, all of the proximity to Mr. Morgan, and used that to her advantage. And she was able to surprise people and catch them off guard and keep them on their toes, really. So they didn't know what to expect when she came around. They didn't know how she would act. They didn't know what she would say. They didn't know how she would bid. They didn't know what negotiation techniques she would employ. She used the element of surprise to her advantage. And then finally, she was bold. So she was able to create this persona and create this path, this lane of authority for herself in the antique and art world and book world, by being bold, by making bold propositions, by using bold language, by dressing boldly. She used all of that boldness, that feminine energy, to her advantage. And then the final point is that Mr. Morgan really needed her because she was different. She could see things that he couldn't see. She had a totally different perspective than him. So he often came to her to to talk things through. So she really became a confidant and an advisor, way more than just in the world of the library that they were building together, because she had such a difference. So that difference is really, really what is our advantage. Now, in my other life, when I'm not reading books, I am a Gallup Clifton Strengths coach. And the premise of Clifton Strengths is that it's your difference that is really your strength. And instead of trying to fix your weaknesses or fixate on your weaknesses and try to strengthen those, lean into what it is that you're already naturally talented and good at to achieve your goals, to be who you want to be, to have what you want to have. Lean into your strengths. And that's exactly what Belle did. She leaned into her strength as a woman. She leaned into her strength as an intelligent woman. She leaned into her strength of being able to learn and pick up things really quickly. And she leaned into her strength of otherness, of standing out and using those things to her advantage. So the personal librarian isn't just about a woman who passed as white when she was really black. It's not just about a woman who built up an amazing library on behalf of JP Morgan and then made sure that it was open to the public. It's about what happens when a woman decides not to disappear, when a woman decides not to shrink, when a woman stands in her own power in the confines, even in the confines that she's within. She was confined by a lot of different things, but she still stood in her power and she stood in her prowess, and she made a name for herself and for Mr. Morgan. So your difference is your strategy. It's not something to shrink from. It's not something to apologize for. It's not something to sand down and make less coarse. It is what sets you apart. And that's where your brilliance is. So focus on your strengths, stay in your strengths, be like Belle, stand up, let yourself shine even within the confines that you're in. So lean into what makes you great. I'm sure you know what it is. And if you don't, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So let me know in the comments if you are rethinking your own brilliance as a result of what Belle did. Let me know what you think about this commentary. Let me know what you think about the book. If you've read it, I would love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right. Peace.